We are going to go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar. Your phone system matters more than you think, understanding what today's phone systems can really do. My name is Alina Atkins, and I am the Growth Marketing Manager here at Netronom. For those of you who don't know, Netronom works with businesses across Appalachia to help them use technology to work smarter, stay secure, and to help you grow your business with confidence. I'm joined today by our co-host, Steve from reInvent, who I'll invite to introduce himself in just a moment. But before we begin, a few quick housekeeping notes. So this webinar is going to be about 45 minutes with a live Q&A. So feel free to submit any questions that you may have for Steve or myself at any time using the Q&A chat function at the bottom of your screen. Also, we are recording today's webinar and all registrants will be receiving a recording at the end. So be on the lookout for that email from myself. Now, today's topic is one that many businesses tend to overlook. Most companies still think of their phones as just that, just phones. But in reality, it plays a major role in how your teams collaborate, right? How customers experience your business, and ultimately how efficiently your day-to-day operations run. So when your phone is outdated, when it's hard to use, or just unreliable, it creates friction across your organization, often without you even realizing. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to cover why phone systems matter more than most businesses realize, what modern phone systems can actually do, and how to choose the right setup that fits your business. We're excited to have reInvent with us today. They bring deep expertise in modern business communications, and they'll help us walk through what's possible with today's phone systems. So, Steve, thank you so much for joining us, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Great. Thanks, Alina. My name is Steve Troke. I'm Channel Manager with reInvent Telecom. Our hope today is that once we're done, you'll have gained a better understanding of what cloud communications is all about, and more importantly, how you can leverage it to not only improve your internal and external communications, but also how you can use it to help grow your business. Let's start with the question, how did we get to where we are today? Well, as we all know, a lot has happened in the last few years with technology and a lot of other things that got in the way. But the one thing that's really occurred that's really mixed things up is the mobile devices have become much more than a phone. To some, like my wife, they're more of a camera than they are a phone. To others, like my kids, they're more of a texting device than phones. And to everyone, they're really about being able to communicate how you choose to, whether that be emailing, texting, or voice calling. And at the same time, having, virtually answers to anything right in the palm of your hand. This has changed the way that many of your current and future clients prefer to communicate. There's a whole generation that cringes at the thought of picking up a phone and actually talking to a live body. Texting or chatting off of a website is really their comfort zone. Your business really, it needs to adapt to them, or they're going to choose to do business with a company that does. Our recurring theme for today that you're going to hear me say many times is we need to meet our clients where they are. We've never had as many tools to increase our productivity than we have today. That's, of course, if they're used properly. The transition to cloud technology has made this all possible. These tools help us improve customer service and vastly increase productivity. And then, there's this wonderful thing called AI. I want you to know you're in the presence of an AI expert. So congratulations, because I've been artificially intelligent my whole life. but seriously, the most common question that we get is, how will AI change the way we do business? Well, the reality is it's going to change a lot more than just how we do business. But the better question to ask, how can we truly benefit from AI, and how can we use it to help grow our businesses? And we'll look at a few real world examples of how you can now or in the future leverage this new technology in your daily operations. Um, and the one point I want to make, and I'm going to say this probably a few times as well, we're going to show you a lot today. Whether you use everything that we show you today isn't really as important as understanding that the next move you make in your communication system is that you be ready, that technology be ready to adapt to what's happening both today and what's going to be happening in the near future without having to start all over again. So the solution is in the cloud, right? And what is the cloud? The reality is it's really just leveraging someone else's computers, or in this case, data centers, so that you can access technology that you desire without having a huge upfront investment. Not to mention the ongoing maintenance that goes along with it. You know, your phone system is at the core of this for every business. The new cloud-based systems provide you with shared access to technology that only a few years ago was well out of the reach of most small or medium-sized businesses. So with that, let's kind of jump in. And I think a good starting point is really kind of where most of you are at today, using a traditional premise-based phone system. With this premise-based system, there is and was a high upfront capital cost for the system. The upgrades are limited and often slow to come, and oftentimes costly. They have got to be purchased on top of what you're already invested in, as well as you've got a single point of failure. So if something goes wrong with that system and that system fails, technicians have to be deployed to your office for it to be repaired. That's if the parts are available to fix it. To make matters worse, most of the manufacturers of these phone systems have discontinued support. They've discontinued development on those systems. Most of them have stopped selling them, and there's been several that have actually just gone out of the business completely. These systems were really not built to allow you to leverage these technology shifts, especially when they happen as quickly as what we've just been through. The other thing, these systems kind of make it very difficult to support remote workers. With everything that happened over the last few years, that's become more and more prevalent. People are expecting to be able to work from home or work for an office, and they should be just as productive no matter where they're at. Communication via text, chat, email, and voice, all from one single device, is really an expectation that's been developed, based on, what we just discussed about the mobile devices and what's happened. If you want your business to meet your customers where they're at, it really truly is. It's time to change because the market has already shifted. Cloud communications, and that's what we're here to talk about. We're going to get into some detail on all that. Is widely referred to as UCaaS, or Unified Communications as a Service. We're going to talk about a lot of different possibilities with this technology. But as I said before, please understand you're in control of what services you implement today. You can start with just basic phone service like you have today. We can emulate pretty much what you've got. And then when you're ready to go to the more advanced features, those can be turned on or activated. It's not an all or nothing decision that you have to make today. Remember, the goal, meet your clients where they are today. If they would prefer to call you, that's fine. Text, that's not a problem. Chat off your website, that can also be set up by working with Metronome so that those chats can be directed to the appropriate person or the team that can handle the inquiry off your website. Bottom line is your employees have one work number. They can work from anywhere with or without a dedicated phone and communicate with your clients in the preferred way of the client. You're not restricted by older technology. And furthermore, your costs are predictable. They're predictable from month to month, and they're based on what services that you choose to implement. I mentioned earlier the one issue with the premise-based phone systems is there's a single point of failure. Our cloud-based UCaaS system is serviced from 3 geographically distributed data centers. Your company would be registered into our East Coast data center. Heaven forbid, if something were to happen to that data center, something catastrophic causes a failure, your service would fail over to either the Midwest or the West Coast data center. All the data centers are aware of every client on our entire network, and each of those data centers has the capacity to handle the entire network in the case of some sort of catastrophic failure that might affect one of those data centers. In addition, we check all the boxes for compliancy, for HIPAA, and for PCI. A lot of that, that compliancy is more than just this phone system. A lot has to be done in your office as well, but we check our side of that equation. The network is also set up to maintain 5 nines reliability. So 99.999% of the time on an annual basis, our system is up and running. That is what our objective is, and that is what our goal is, and that's what we work with. And we meet that on most occasions, most years. Also, regarding your remote workers, we've got the ability to provide unique E911 registrations. So if someone does take their work home, or you can have a phone in your office, you can have a phone in a home office. If I'm in my home office working, and if I dial 911 for whatever reason, we will have a unique caller ID for that person go out as their DID, but then more importantly, the address is going to be appropriate for where they made that call from. So if it's made from the home address, it's going to be sent the appropriate address to the emergency services. If it's the work address, it's going to be the office location. So all that stuff is set up, and all that's part of what Netronome does when they deploy the system. To summarize, kind of just where we started right now, each user can be unique. We can provide one app for everything: calling, messaging, video meetings, chat, as well as even a webinar service like we're doing here. Your employees that choose to work remotely or are mobile have a single identity. They can separate work calls from personal calls from the same device. So if someone calls my cell phone, I can see that it's just ringing into my cell phone. That was just a direct call to my cell phone. If my cell phone rings, it's going to have a different ring. It's going to open up the mobile app, and I'm going to be able to see, oh, this is a work call. Then I can choose to, answer that call, or I can choose to have it send off to voicemail. Call recording is another feature that can easily be turned on or off. You can manually record the calls, or you can decide, this user should have all their calls recorded. You're in control of all that. It's not something that we control. You determine if you do want to record calls, whose calls should be recorded, and in what fashion. What the core of this platform then opens up is the ability to then add on and integrate with your other applications that you might use in your company so that they work intelligently together. So like CRM system or customer relationship management systems. A couple of them are like HubSpot and Salesforce, those types of applications. These integrations can automatically track calls and put that information within the contact record that you're working within. So it just makes it a lot easier to track activity of your employees. And you've also got the ability to activate different AI applications and bots that can automate process, that can truly, help improve your customer service, your overall customer experience of of doing business with your company. And I'll get into some more specifics on that in just a minute. To start, just to give you an idea of how this system pieces together, it's really pretty simple. If we start looking at a starting point, we need to identify first the needs of each one of your employees or phones that might be in your office, and what their core needs are, right? So it starts with a simple seat. This simple seat basically emulates what you've got now, sort of the same kind of premise-based phone, where this type of user in this environment typically doesn't take, not going to take their work home with them. If their phone rings and they don't answer it, it's going to go off to a voicemail message or voicemail box where the user, the caller can leave a message. The user can then access that voicemail through their phone, just like they do today, right? Or through an email as well, because it's going to be copied into their email and they can listen to it that way as well. If they're out of the office, so accessing it back through their phone, or if they're out of their office, they can also call into their automated attendant if you have that set up, and they can access that that message through the automated attendant, probably like they do today. The full featured seat is really the most common seat that we deploy. It really has all the bells and whistles, right? So this type of user has a desktop application. They can also have a phone, or that desktop application can really, in some cases, replace the phone. You can still have, a phone and the desktop application at the same time, or you choose how you want to do business, or work within the application, I should say, as well as a mobile app, so that when I am in my vehicle and I'm driving around, I can be accessible 24/7 if I want to be. But that again, you choose whether you answer that call or not when you're moving around. Um, in addition to just those apps, things like that, you can also access a web and audio conference bridge that allows you to have video meetings for up to 25 attendees at no additional cost on top of the seat. There's even a webinar functionality like we're doing here, where you can host a webinar and have up to 200 participants in that webinar. So that seat really gives you ability to, take the communication to your clients to the next level. And finally, there's what we call the CX seat. This adds the ability to route calls to the appropriate personnel depending on, and also provide. So this is like, I don't like calling it a call center seat, because oftentimes people say, well, we're not a call center, but you might have a group of service group, a sales group, where calls come in, and they, in the old school way of talking, it used to be called a hunt group, right? So calls come into one group, they're distributed to the people that are in that group. What this type of seat provides is a lot of that call center functionality. So you're going to gain real-time information of what's going on. Are there people waiting in queue right now? Real time, and if there are and there's nobody available, I as a supervisor can actually make myself available to take those calls that might be in queue, or I can assign them to other people. There's also historical reporting information that you can glean from this, so you make sure you're staffed properly during certain times of days or days of weeks. In addition, the supervisor now can activate a monitoring, whisper page, or barge in functionality. So monitoring is, you have a new employee, you just want to see how they're doing with the calls. If they get stuck on a call, I as a supervisor can whisper page into their headset, so that the only person that can hear me is that agent or that employee. And in that case, I can coach them through the process of how they should respond. And finally, if it gets to the point where I feel like they really need help, I can barge into that conversation and assist on the call. So that gives you that powerful, suite of seats that really you can use to mix and match as you see fit. It's not a one size fits all. You can determine this user, really all they need is that simple seat. This user needs that full function. They need that desktop app, that mobile client, maybe the meeting seats as well. And then maybe those different groups you might have in your organization would truly benefit from that CX seat. So we can actually go through, and that's one thing that Netronome will do is look at your needs and have the system match and meet those needs. In addition to the types of features that give access to each user through these seats that we just talked about, we can also give specific users access to the administration part of the system as well. We don't have to. This is really truly only if you have someone on site or that works for you that is, capable of doing this, and they'd like to do things like, reset mailboxes when you have a new employee, rename the phones, change buttons on a phone, add people in and out of different groups, that sort of thing. So that is a possibility with the system, where you can actually gain access to the administration of the system yourself. So I mentioned the MyCloud web app. There's basically, it is a web app. The web app is actually what's referred to as a progressive web app. So you're not logging in and out of it every time. You're not launching a browser to access it. We actually pin it to the system tray. And when you want to open it, you just click on that and it opens it like a program. But it's actually opening it in a browser, but it appears as if it's just a standalone program. The benefit of that is we don't have to load software on anyone's computer when we do implement this system. They just simply log in once, and at that point, it's installed on their PC, and it's very easily accessible. With this application, well, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to open up, I've got it opened over here, and I'm going to show you a live demonstration in a minute, but this is where you're going to, be able to SMS and MMS. You see the presence of different people. I'm going to go ahead and drag my over here just to give you a feel for what this is all about. So just real quick, over here, the side panel over here, this is where all my contacts are going to be. So I've got all my contacts in my organization here. It's going to show me who's available, who's unavailable. I can then categorize this by departments as well. So really quickly and easily, I can go through and I can just show, who's available, who's on a phone, maybe who's in a meeting, who's at lunch, whatever it might be. I can also mark certain individuals as favorites. And those favorites can then be moved up to the top. I guess it looks like I just have two favorites, but you get the idea. So you can look at different departments, or you can look at everybody. I can look at my call history. So these are all my calls that I've recently made or received. Any voicemails, messages that I have are also going to appear in here. Chat in MMS or SMS history appears here. Call park groups can appear over here as well. So that's if you have someone, you park the call and then you can let someone know to pick up that call on this park orbit. I'm sure you've got that within your traditional system as well. This area in the middle, this is sort of my work area. So if I've got a number of different chats that I'm chatting back and forth with somebody, I can use this to multitask. Where I've got the chats coming in and going. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to call in just to show you what happens when a call comes in. We'll go ahead and let's go ahead and call in here. And this is and at this point, I've got the ability to, sorry, I've lost the call control for some reason. But from here, I can actually do different things. I can actually transfer the call to different people. I can send it to a park orbit. I can put the caller on hold. I can go back to my dial pad, that sort of thing. So it just gives you a feel for, kind of how you can work. So within the soft phone. Oh, can you guys still hear me?
So I can hear you now, but whenever you were transferring over, it seemed like it muted you for some reason.
Yeah, that's because the meeting is taking over my audio is the problem. So I apologize for that. So anyway, so that's just to give you a feel for the soft phone, the ability to basically see the presence of the different people in your company at any time. The text messaging can be both text and MMS, so you can be sending pictures over, you can be sending videos over, that sort of thing as well, right through that application. In addition, there's a mobile app that you can do virtually everything you can do on the desktop app with the mobile app. One of the kind of cool features you can do is you can do what we call a call switch. So if I'm in my office on my phone, I can switch that call to my mobile app without disconnecting the call. And at that point, I'm talking to the person on my cell phone. I can then walk out of my office, hop in my truck, drive away. And at that point, it's going to be switching from the office Wi-Fi. And then when I get further away from the office, it's going to do a handoff to the cellular network without dropping the call. So you really have the ability to, as you're coming and going, seamlessly hand off in either direction. Conversely, if I'm coming into the office, want to switch it to my desk phone, I can do that, switch it to my desktop phone and take it on my headset in my office. So that's just one of the cool things you can do with the application and with the software going back and forth between devices. And by the way, each user can have up to 5 different devices on one seat. So I can have that home office, which is the same extension as my office. I can then have it on my mobile phone. I can have it on my desktop. That's 4. And I can have another one at my lake house. I don't know. Pick another location. But you can actually have 5 different locations, and then you're going to determine which ones do you want to ring and when do you want them to ring. Right. That's going to be something that we work with you on as well. The system itself, that was just a 50-cent demo of kind of, the basics of the system. But the system itself is much more than just UCaaS. There's other applications we can add on to it. We've got, faxing capability that we can hosted fax capability that we can offer you along with the system. We've got business SMS, MMS applications that I'll show you in a second. We'll talk about. There's different call recording options, and there's different things that we can then do and leverage with AI, like I mentioned previously. As a starting point, I like to show this application here, MyCloud Messenger, because I mentioned how, we wanted to show you how this technology can help you grow your business. And this is one great way, one great example of how you can have a tool implemented with your business that will help you grow your business. With this tool, probably the best way to show this is just go to the next slide and talk through some applications for it. The idea is we're going to take your main business number, which typically is going to terminate into either an automated attendant or maybe, who knows, maybe a AI receptionist or maybe a live receptionist. All three of those are possible. And with that, we're going to take it, but we're going to port just the texting portion of that number over. So, and that's going to go into this application. So when we do text for any of these different applications, the number that goes out is going to be your main business number. So your customers are going to know it's coming from you. Some of the different applications for this, in a healthcare world, appointment reminders, prescription refill reminders, oftentimes these are driven by another system, an EHR, an EMR system that is used to activate all this, but you need something to hand it off to. This application's got an interface that will interface with other applications that you might have in your office as well, to be the means of distributing and sending out those texts. The texts can go out one-on-one, or they can go out to, bulk marketing type texts as well. Another application for this is a restaurant. Rather than hand you a vibrating hockey puck when your table's ready, you can actually take the person's cell phone number, take their name, and then categorize it through the interface and say, Steve was here for happy hour on Friday. And guess what? Next Wednesday, I'm going to get a text from that restaurant says, hey, come visit us again for happy hour. Show us this text, take $5 off of your first, your first appetizer, whatever it might be. Car dealerships, auto repair shops, after you get an oil change, effectively 2 hours later, you're getting set up on a schedule. So maybe 2 hours later, I get a text that says, how do we do today, right? And one thing that's interesting is based on the keywords of what I reply with, it can be routed to the appropriate person as well. So if I think I've got an oil leak, and they see leak is one of the keywords we're looking for, that's going to go to a service technician so that they can then respond. And the responses are real time. It's not, we're actually responding then and communicating via this text message that's going out. Schools, governments for, school bus changes, route changes, that sort of thing, public service announcements and governments, things of that nature, or just, communication you want to give to your clients about maybe a new product that you've just brought on or a special that you want to advertise, whatever it might be. You can have an unlimited number of people in a database and then decide, okay, I want to send this message out to this group of people or this subgroup or everybody. And that message is then going to go out in bulk, and then and then in that message, you're going to invite them to reply back. So again, the reply back is going to come back to the appropriate person that can handle that reply back properly. So that's kind of this application. It's just an add-on to the system. It really is kind of a cool application and really truly does and can help grow your business. I mentioned AI and how can we work within AI and how can you benefit from AI. One of the ways we can do and really provide you a tool to help you benefit from the AI revolution really is through the call recording interface that we can provide. So call recordings are just that, you're going to get a bucket full of recorded calls, and you as a supervisor or as the owner of the business can go through and pick and choose which calls you want to listen to. And it's just sort of hunting and pecking. Unless you've got a tool that's built into it that is going to highlight which calls are most important to you. With the AI interface within the call recording, which is it's an optional add-on, we can provide first off a sentiment analysis of that call. So that's what this bar is showing us. This yellowish color is neutral, green is positive, red is where it's maybe a little bit negative based on how people are speaking or what words are being spoken. So this will give you a highlight of if there's negative calls, positive calls you might want to use for training purposes. But then more importantly, you see these account codes and topics. We can actually enter AI keyword topics or phrases that are going to highlight specific calls based on your input. So in this case, this was done for a demonstration, so it's not all that creative. If someone says demonstration on a call, I want to highlight that call with that keyword. If they say greeting, or if the greeting is done properly, we're going to say, yeah, greeting is done properly. If it's a sales call, if it's an order placed, you get the idea. Whatever keywords or phrases you want, that is then going to be brought up to the attention of yourself. Another great example is, if the customer appears upset on the call, bring that to my attention, and we're going to put an account code of supervisor attention, right? So then I can go back to this list, sort by this column, and it's going to bring all those calls up, and then I can determine which calls I want to listen to. So it really is a very useful thing. It's also going to give you a call summary of each recording too, sort of, so when you pull up a recording, here's the summary of the call. You can still listen to everything if you choose to, or you can just pop to the different section of the recording that you're interested in. So that's one way that AI can, really help improve your team, use it for training purposes, take examples of good calls and say, hey, look at how this person handled these objections. We can all learn from this. And then if there's some, lesser calls that need to bring to the attention of one of your employees, you can bring them in and coach them through of how they could have handled it a little bit differently. Another way that AI can be leveraged within these systems is with AI auto receptionists and AI agents. And I know still people kind of cringe at some of this. We're all kind of used to it already with basic auto attendants and things like that, right? But those are very structured. One for this, one for sales, 2 for service, 3 for this, 4 for company directory, or 0 for the operator. This takes it to the next level. With this AI receptionist, you have the ability to actually train this device or this AI bot, if you will, about your company. The first thing you do is typically point them at your website, point it at a knowledge base, point it at whatever is applicable to your business, and you train it over the period of just a few days, really, and then you can let it start answering and processing calls. You can do it during business, you can do it after hours, either way. One of the common things that people use these for, appointment setting. Right. So now you've got someone that can actually set up appointments 24/7. If you close at 5:15, someone calls in to try to make an appointment with you. You're not available. Well, if you're not available, I might try calling somebody else. Right. With this technology, this has it basically, it's very intuitive. It's very conversational. It's going to ask questions. Who would you like to have an appointment with? When would you like the appointment? Or how about 9 o'clock on Thursday? Great, that works. And then this can also then integrate with a calendar system as well, so that appointment is then thrown on the calendar for that individual. So it really is very cool stuff that's happening right now. There's AI bots, and an AI bot is really nothing different than we just looked at. It's just, it has this unique purpose, really. So oftentimes this can be used as a front end to a customer service group. Call comes in, it's going to ask a few questions. So how can we help you? If there's a problem, what's the problem? Try to better define the problem. And then what this bot is going to do, if it's a real simple answer and it's in its knowledge base, it will provide an answer. If not, it will send it to the department or the person that's appropriate to handle that type of call. So really what it's going to do is it's going to eliminate a lot of the routing of calls and, oh, yeah, you need to ask John about that question. It's going to filter and screen all those calls up front so that your employees can focus in on servicing your clients and your customers. So again, it's just another example of how, this type of technology can increase your booking rate if you're taking appointments over the phone. And they don't go to sleep. They don't stop working. It's going to be available 24/7. So again, this isn't a futuristic thing. This is something that small, medium businesses are doing today. I mentioned the CRM integration earlier. I just wanted to point out, I mentioned Salesforce and HubSpot because those are kind of the two big ones. There's over 250 different CRMs or customer relation management systems that we integrate with and that we can work with. We also work with Microsoft Teams, so we can provide an integration to Microsoft Teams. So rather than that soft phone I showed you earlier, you can use Teams as your soft phone. So if you're a Microsoft Teams house, you like living in Teams, we can adapt to that. But that doesn't mean everybody has to. You might have your one group of people that like living within Teams, and other people they just want a phone on their desk. Again, not an all or nothing thing with this technology and what we're doing here. So that's just a little highlight of some of the more advanced applications that are possible. Making the switch, I know, a lot of people have concerns over implementing a UCaaS system. Is my network capable? Do I have sufficient bandwidth? That sort of thing. Well, and that's where Netronome steps in, right? So they're going to make sure everything is in place to make this a simple and smooth implementation. They're going to work with you to make sure that, when you do choose to implement this system, it's going to work properly for you. That's from defining the needs of different users, how the call should route into the system, as well as coach you through the more advanced options that are available, and how they can maybe help your business, again, by meeting your clients where they're at, right? So making sure you can accept all those calls, or text messages or web chats, no matter where they're coming from or what time it is, day or night. You've got the ability now to have that technology at your fingertips to do so. So that's kind of the lion's share of what I wanted to talk about today. The summary of all this, really is, it's all about empowering your team of people in your company, no matter where they're at, no matter what device they're on. They're going to be able to communicate with your clients. Your costs are going to be predictable month to month. There's not going to be any surprises. And really, the clear next step is to set up a discovery call so we can look at what your unique situation is. And we can even set up a demo system that would allow you to test drive the system. So you can set it up in your office, you make and receive calls so you can just see for yourself what the quality and what the experience is like. This is Alina's email address. That would be sort of the next step, would be to contact Alina and set up an appointment, and off we go. So with Alina, I'll hand it back over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. So now we're going to get into a Q&A. If you have any questions for Steve or myself, feel free to. You can actually put it in the Q&A function, and there's also a chat function, so it's kind of confusing, but there's two different options if you'd like. And Steve, I'll start us off. One question I have is, if a business is unsure where to start, like they want to make a change, what they're using right now is kind of outdated, but they just don't know where to start, what would be the first thing that they should evaluate when they're considering a new phone system?
Well, the first thing I would suggest is they contact this gal named Alina Adkins at Netronome. Because seriously, if you're really not sure if this is right, you're not sure how this is going to fit, have a conversation with the folks and the engineers over at Netronome. They're going to be upfront with you. We're not trying to cram technology down anyone's throat that isn't ready for it. I will tell you, however, like I mentioned, there is a need you need to start adapting to, this different ways of communicating. And I know a lot of your employees already do that probably through their personal cell phones, right? And that creates a whole nother problem and a whole other issue. So, seriously, contact Metronome. Just set up a call. We can step you through the different options, give you an idea of what it's going to look like from a pricing perspective. We don't want to hide anything. We don't want any surprises, and it really is the best starting point.
Awesome. And I do think it's really important to mention, how you had talked about how the newer generation is they're not really comfortable with speaking with people, and regardless on your views on that, we have to meet them where they're at. And so if that's texting and that kind of stuff, we have to be on board for that, because if we're not, then we're getting behind. And so we definitely don't want to miss out on newer opportunities because we're not adapting to how people are communicating nowadays.
Absolutely.
Um, all right. And another question is, so how do you help recreate existing auto attendants and, like you had mentioned, hunt groups, and call routing rules in the new cloud environment?
Yeah, I mean that's again, Metronome is going to schedule an appointment, come out, look at your existing phone system, um, look at how you're routing calls currently, and then have a conversation. How do you want this type of call coming in? This group over here, you might have a sales team over here, you might have a service team or whatever it might be. There's all kinds of new and interesting options available that we can set up for you that you don't have in your current system. We've all been exposed to them, but even in, what's kind of cool, one of the things that I really like is these, the hunt group idea where a call comes into a group of people. You can have the call distributed to whoever's available at the time, or maybe it's the one that's been idle the longest will get the next call. There's different ways we can set all that up. But while they are in queue and while they're on hold, they can receive messages. They can the messages about your business, your and what they're waiting for. But then also we can tell them what position they are in queue, what is their estimated hold time. You know, I know that seems like a big company thing, right? But that's what's kind of cool about it. You've got the ability to take advantage and leverage this technology. Again, doesn't cost anything more. Um, and then you can also give that person the option for like a callback. Would you like us to call you back? Would you like to stay on hold? Would you like us to call you back? Right. So um, that's all part that kind of technology is what's built into this application. There's a lot more, but bottom line is folks from Metronome, the engineers are going to come out. They're going to map all that stuff out for you. If you like it the way it is today, we'll duplicate exactly the way it is today and we'll put it into this new system. And then we can start toying with maybe some of this other things, technology that we can turn on, and see what you think about that for your customers. So yeah, contact Alina. We'll set up an appointment, and we'll line all that stuff out for you.
Awesome. One question we got is this comparable to systems like Ring Central and Uma? I don't know if I pronounced that right, but with the local connection benefit. So we have been looking at systems, but would love a more local option if comparable.
It's better. It's not comparable. No, I'm just kidding. Yes. No, yeah, absolutely. It's the same type of system. It is unified communications as a service. Yeah, the problem like you just mentioned, you're dealing with national companies with Ring Central and Uma. Oftentimes they use subcontractors in the local markets. So you don't really have a relationship with the person that's actually delivering the core service to you. Um, yeah, I mean, virtually anything that's available on a Ring Central or an Uma type platform is going to be available on this platform. There's going to be some differences. There's going to be some things that are better on ours, maybe not so much on theirs. Things that, but yeah, it's same core technology, soft phones, mobile devices, and that sort of thing. Absolutely. Combined with the local service that you get from Metronome.
Great. Awesome. Well, I hope that answered your question. That's all the time that we have for today. Again, and if you guys have any questions, you think about it afterwards, feel free, take a screenshot of this slide. That's my direct email. You can give me just send me over an email and I'd be happy to get you in touch with the right person. Or if you have another question for Steve, I'd be more than happy to send it to him. Thank you, Steve, for this, for
Thank
just
you.
joining us. And thank you all for joining us today. We hope that this session has helped you see that your phone systems, they matter more than you think, and that it's more than just a way to make and receive calls. They can do so much more, that it's actually a key part of how your business communicates and how it serves your customers and ultimately how you grow. Um, be on the lookout for our next webinar, which it's funny, Steve talked about AI. We're doing a webinar in February about Microsoft Copilot. So just how businesses can use that, what it costs, how it can help your business. So be on the lookout for us promoting that. But again, thank you all for joining us. Steve, thank you. And we hope that
Thank
you
you.
have a good rest of your day.